Hey, it's Matthew Cudmore with Story Behind the Stone, a show where we talk service, sacrifice, and stories. The other day I sat down with Rosanna Rolph, author of a new book called Dear Mr Snippet. It's a book centering on the wartime letters exchanged between her grandparents, Rita and John. Through their letters, which are passionate, witty, heartfelt, personal diary entries, family photographs, Dear Mr. Snippet chronicles the lives of John and Rita in the wartime years of 1939 to 1945, through all of the tensions and brutalities of World War II, including Dunkirk and the Battle of Normandy. In addition to the book launch, which is this week, I want to flag two upcoming events related to the launch. For those of you in the UK, there will be a special exhibit at the London Postal Museum on April the 29th. And then a special book signing on May the 2nd. Rosanna, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a joy to chat with you. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to Story Behind the Stone, a podcast where we focus on stories, service, and sacrifice. I'm joined today by author Rosanna Rolph, author of Dear Mr. Snippet, a historical memoir about World War II. Rosanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes, and I'm so pleased to chat. We've been chatting already for half an hour. So much to talk about. Where are you joining us from today?
So from Surrey in the UK.
Yes, we were chatting, of course, about your upcoming novel, Dear Mr. Snippet. What is the title about?
So Dear Mr. Snippet is how my grandmother, Rita Reed, who was married to John Reed, used to address him in some of her letters. And the book itself is a collection of their letters and diary entries written from September 1939 through to May 1945. And really, it's their conversation over those years. And I think she addressed him as Mr. Snippet because he used to send home little snippets of information about the war or the training that he was undertaking with his troop or just his experiences. But what's extraordinary is that she also sent snippets of information to him about civilian life in London and their young family. So it just seemed a really good title to sum up what was going on really between them.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds like a really interesting peek behind the curtain, so to speak, of an intimate relationship, sometimes separated by miles and miles. Now, your relationship with your grandparents, I'd love to know a little bit about what kind of drew you to these letters in the first place.
So they were a discovery. So my mother, I was caring for her during her last days. And one day she came to me with this very ordinary looking cardboard box. But there was an expression on her face that just told me that there was something very special inside. And so I took it, opened it, and I found these bundles of letters written in my grandmother's handwriting and in her signature emerald green ink. And I looked at the postmarks and realised that they were the World War II letters that my mother had often spoken of, but she'd never let me remove them from the house because they were so precious to her, and I'd never really had a chance to read them. But I think she realised that she was going to pass, and so she wanted to pass them on to safe custody. And then she had also said to me, there's your grandmother's treasure box, which I want you to have. And after she had died, I was clearing her study and I found this treasure box, which was full of all sorts of things. So family photographs of myself with my cousins and my brothers and different cards we'd sent to our grandparents and lovely things. And gradually, as I worked my way through the box, at the bottom was another collection of letters. But this time they were in my grandfather's handwriting. And when I checked the dates, I realised they were the Second World War years. And I just, in that moment, just suddenly thought, could there be a conversation if we put these into date order and dovetail these letters? Will there be a to and fro? Will they be talking to each other? And just, what stories are these going to hold? So it was the most amazing discovery alongside their personal diaries and my grandfather's military diaries and photographs that they each took over those years as well. So yeah, it was just an amazing discovery. It was so exciting.
Want to give zoom out just a little bit and give some context into you. You have a background in teaching and education, if I have it right.
Yes, so I trained as a teacher and taught in early years and primary years as well. And yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I'm really drawn to the whole concept of Dear Mr. Snippet because you had these physical artifacts really of your own family. Have you found, is that a trend line through your education where you found, some importance in physical things and kind of transmitting knowledge and history?
I think what I've always enjoyed is teaching through stories.
Hmm.
I think we all are storytellers. We tell each other stories every single day, about what happened about our day or who we saw or a conversation we had or where we've been. We are all storytellers. But to tell a story with an object, I always found just really caught children's imaginations because it was something physical. And so, yes, perhaps that really fed into my storytelling in this book.
I think it's so neat that you kind of were presented with I just imagine light coming up from the box, really, really, whether it was there or not. Was there a moment, when you're going through the letters, and I imagine you also with a detective's hat on, was there a moment when you knew that you just had to create a book around this?
So I decided that I wasn't going to read the letters. I was going to transcribe them so that they could be shared with family. And it was really during transcribing them that I started to understand my grandparents in their younger years and how they lived day to day because there's such intricate detail. But I think what I found really extraordinary was when I put together my grandfather's military account of when he was evacuating from Dunkirk and the letters that he wrote to Rita leading up to that, and equally Rita's letters written to him, where they're both desperately trying to maintain each other's morale and, we can do this and we're the British and we are going to win. Um, but then the juxtaposition between that and actually what was going on for them both. And John's diary accounts are so harrowing, but then contrasted with his letters of just describing different events to Rita to entertain her instead. There's just occasionally that I think suddenly the mask slips and he talks about when the bombs are falling and just how terrible it is. And he hopes that she never experiences anything like it. And he also talks of the refugees and he just finds that so difficult. So yeah, it's a little bit as a reader, it's a little bit like you're on an emotional yo-yo. But I think that mirrors what it was like to live in that time. You really didn't know from day to day what was going to happen next. And a split-second decision could be life or death. And I hope that comes across for the reader. I think it does.
Oh, I'm hearing in your voice that he's caring for Rita, from across the miles, and that must have been so hard to know, to balance for him.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. He was a very strong man with a deep sensitivity. So yeah, he loved her dearly. And again, that comes through the letters. And I think, yes, he was very protective, very protective.
Tell me about Rita.
So Rita was quite mischievous. She had a real twinkle in her eye. And again, that comes across in her writing. She does little jokes and little wind ups and, yeah, she's great. And he equally meets her with banter. So they have this constant funny conversation going on, which is very witty. But yeah, she was very loving. She desperately wanted to set up married life because they married 3 days after the outbreak of war. And so really they hadn't lived together as husband and wife and as a family. And they were just waiting all through World War II with their joint hopes and dreams, just desperately clinging on to them, hoping that they would achieve that.
You posted, I think it was today, March 31st. We're recording this episode. You posted today. This is the day he left the UK. Do I have
Yeah,
that
so
right, or have I misunderstood?
no, you're absolutely right. So
Yeah,
he sailed from Southampton to northern France on the 31st of March in 1940, yes, and landed the next day. So,
yeah. How
yeah,
does that make you feel? Sitting where you are today, you've written the book, you've gone through all the letters.
it's extraordinary.
Yeah,
I think because, I mean, I can't fully imagine it, but I feel I have partly lived a little bit of it with them.
yeah.
And yeah, just the separation side of it,
Yeah.
I think, must have been so difficult. And the not knowing. And really, there were very limited telephone calls. And so the only way they could really talk to each other was by letter.
The letters began in, I think it spans 1939 to 1945. Did you notice kind of a change in those 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because at the beginning they are newly married, they're young, they're, yes, come on, we're going to do this. And actually they make comments of, we don't think this war is going to last very long. We're going to get on top of this and then we can just get on. And then so much happens over those 6 years for both of them that by the end, as they're approaching VE Day, they're tired, they're worn. Rita comments, I need you more than the army does. You tell the major. Um, and she does. And actually he's worn as well. He's ready to stop and to really start living again. 6 years is a long time. And part of me has reflected on our times through the pandemic when we were in lockdown. And I know it was different, but there were parallels in the fact that life stopped for a bit. And I think it
Yeah.
did for them as well, but for 6 years and to keep going was hard. Yeah, they weren't ready.
When it comes to kind of like the backdrop of World War II, do you see a lot of the events that many of us today know about widely? And do you see them in the letters, or is a lot of that censored? I'm really curious about
Yeah.
how much is there.
Yeah, so sometimes you have to read between the lines.
Mm.
And then sometimes John will talk about it several weeks later. He'll say, "Oh, I can tell you about this now."
Uh,
Some of the letters they have got the censor's blue pencil on them, so you know that they've gone through and they've been checked, which is quite interesting.
yes.
And yes, some of the events, absolutely, they are spot on. And I've learnt a lot of history by doing this book. And there's been times I've been looking something up thinking, was this at this moment?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, absolutely. It's all spot on. So, of course, because it's authentic.
Were there any surprises in the letters that you weren't expecting?
I think just how they're a little bit cheeky with each other, actually. Yeah, I think that was quite a big surprise. But
Yeah.
it's all just giving a little bit of a nod and a wink. That's all. But and just what a great match. They were so suited to one another. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that just really shone through. And I saw that when they were older, but when they were younger, they were really, yeah, they were quite something as a couple, I think.
What was your impression of them before you kind of started transcribing?
Gosh, okay. My grandfather was very humble about speaking about anything to do with the Second World War. He didn't really want to. So I think to start to understand a little more was really, really fascinating. And I feel so proud of him now, having learnt more of who he was as a man and how he led his men, which I really didn't know before because he chose not to talk about it. So before I mean they were very upstanding citizens, as I said, kind and generous, uh, great friends to people, and they loved their family very deeply and held us all very close. So I had that security, that wonderful, strong relationship already. But yeah, to understand them as young people was lovely.
Do you see a lot of yourself in them?
Oh, good question. I think I do. Yeah, I think some of
Yeah.
my values
Yeah.
and wanting to make a difference wherever possible. Sometimes you can make a difference by doing the smallest act, but this it can have the biggest impact on somebody different. And I think I look for those opportunities just as they did.
On the subject of helping, of charity, you have partnered with Little Troopers in the
Yeah.
United Kingdom.
Yeah. So as I was reading through the letters and putting the book together, I just started to wonder if there was any way that the story could be used to impact on others in a positive way. And I started to reflect on how Rita and John's two children, Rosemary and Jeremy, had been affected by living through World War II as well. And it made me just wonder how military families today cope and whether there are any parallels between the story and their experiences. So I was really fortunate to meet with an ex-military family, a mother and daughter, who gave me some time to really understand their experiences, and also a padre. And I could see these parallels. It was incredible, nearly 80 years on, there were. So I then researched different charities and found this fantastic charity called Little Troopers, founded by Louise Vettigan in 2011. When her own daughter was struggling, Louise is an ex-army veteran, and her husband was serving during that time in the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts. And she looked for support for her daughter, and she just couldn't find it. So what a great lady. She set up this brilliant charity that works to support military children at home, in school, and within our healthcare system. So I met with her, we talked it through, and she could see these parallels too, which was great. And so, yeah, we're collaborating to use the story to highlight the work that the charity does.
It's wonderful that you're involved, and I can absolutely see the parallels. You had made mention of this a few minutes ago, kind of the home life. What was Rita's home front experience? War rationing? Were there victory gardens? Does she write about that?
Yeah, so she talks about Warship Week. She
Hmm.
talks about sticking stickers onto bombs in Trafalgar Square. She talks about rationing. She talks about the air raid shelter and how they're all crammed in like sardines, breathing each other's air, and how she goes out of it one evening and she sees the red skies of the Battle of Britain. Yeah, she talks about
Yeah.
all sorts of things. Yeah, just and again, it's those intricacies that you just haven't really known about. So one of my favourite bits is when she talks about doing the keep fit exercises to the radio at 7:30 in the morning, and how the rest of the household reacts, including the dog, who she's got her legs in the air and she's waxing round his hind quarters alternately, and how different members come in and laugh at her, and how she's in a really compromising position with her legs over her head, and she hears this slithering sound, and it's a mouse that runs across the floor. So it's great. It's again these snippets of daily life.
You've brought it to life so vividly. I have to ask, is there a particular exchange where you have kind of an emotional response to, like, that you think is at the core of this book?
So I think right at the end of the book, there's two very special letters which are linked to VE Day. And so John and Rita are each writing about their experience of it. And Rita goes out with her mother to see how everyone's celebrating. And she sees children dancing around a bonfire, and the houses have all got their windows open with fairy lights strung in V shapes, and everyone's got their radios facing outwards, all playing the same program. And she suddenly realizes, this is a once in a lifetime moment. So she goes home to get my mother, who was 3 years old, in the hope that she might remember some of it. And my mother is enchanted by the streetlights, which she says are like stars that have dropped from the sky, because she's never seen one lit. It's the first time she's ever seen it. So, yeah, I think that moment is everything's going to be okay now. And that was a really special moment in the book, and how Rita then follows on from that, just talking about how they're going to live the rest of their lives.
Their
So,
lives are now unpaused.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's beautiful. You have me tearing up over here thinking about that. Um, it's really, really special, Rosanna. Um, when it comes to what's next, you have the book launching in April. That I understand you're having a launch as well, and that's in May. Is it like a signing maybe?
Yes,
Or
yes.
yeah. But before that, you have a really interesting thing happening in London at the London Postal Museum.
Yes, I think this goes back to my career in education, in that I did want to make a difference with the charity, but I also recognised how much I had learnt from this story. And I just again wondered, is there any opportunity where these letters could be physically shared, where if readers would like to go and see them, they would have that opportunity, along with some of the photographs that John and Rita took at the time and some personal objects as well. And so I contacted the London Postal Museum and was absolutely delighted when they said they'd like to install an exhibit in their World War section. So yes, that's from April the 29th. There will be a case that is dedicated to John and Rita's letters. And the letters I've talked about linked to VE Day are central to that case, alongside lots of other interesting snippets.
It's wonderful work that you're doing, with the book, with Little Troopers, now with the Postal Museum. What do you think John and Rita would think about what you're doing today?
Oh, I hope they'd be really proud. I would love that. I think John would wonder what all the fuss was about. He'd say, "For heaven's sake, why is everyone finding this so interesting?" Rita would love it. She would think it was absolutely brilliant. And she'd say, "Well, of course they're interested."
What a
That's
character.
yeah, that's how they would be.
Rosanna, the book is available in physical form and digital. Can you tell me a little bit? And I think this is so interesting. You have it in audiobook as well. Why did you do that? And how did that come together?
I wanted to put it into audiobook form, really, so it was inclusive. So we have a really, really dear friend who is losing his sight, and it made me realise that for some, they may not be able to access the book in the same way unless it's in audiobook format. So, yeah, two fantastic narrators, Clive Hayward and Lucy Scott, have taken on the parts of John and Rita, and they have
Ah,
done the most amazing job. And I was delighted to be able to read my prologue and introduction and epilogue at the end as well. So yeah, it's fantastic. And funnily enough, I know the book inside out and backwards, but when I listened to it, it still got me. I still found myself being really emotional in some places. So their writing really holds its own 80 years on. It's incredible.
well, I guess we'll have to buy it in digital and physical form then. It sounds wonderful. Rosanna, I've so enjoyed chatting with you today. Thank you for making the time. To our listeners, want to invite you to like and share the episode and follow for more. We release shows weekly. Rosanna, I'm so thrilled to see that this book is coming out. I think it's really special. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thanks so much, Matthew. I've really enjoyed it too, and I so hope you love the story.
Thanks. I have a feeling I will. Thanks so much for tuning in. Story Behind the Stone is available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on the Reach Across America radio network, on iHeartRadio, Audacity, and TuneIn. Just search for Wreath. We air every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Reach Across Radio Network. Thank you for tuning in.